Now the next tool I'm going to hone is this V tool. It doesn't want to focus here, but this is I got a V on it. And I can get into the V with this muslin wheel, and sometimes I'll stop with the muslin wheel, but I'll show you a little different technique for removing the burr and honing the inside on a V tool. But let's start with our cardboard wheel. Again, there's a slight bevel on the outside of this tool, and I'm going to locate that bevel just like I did with the other tools on one face, and I'm gradually going to rotate this tool around, find the other bevel, and just kind of go back and forth like this until I get this new edge set, and then I'll go to the other technique to clean up the inside. All right. So I've honed most of this tool. Now I'm going to go to a profiled honing block and touch up the inside. So what I have here is just a profiled block that you can buy from a number of places. I know Woodcraft sells them. Klingspor probably sells them as well. You can make your own. They're not hard to make, and I'll show you some alternatives for free in just a second. But the idea here is that there's two V-tool profiles. I'm going to use this one. I'll just take a little honing compound. This is green. And rub it on the V-tool guide, and then just pull this back towards me. And yeah, that V-tool is ready to go. So that's it for honing a V-tool. And the exact same procedure can be used for a vaner. There's some small round diameter hones here for a V-tool or for a vaner, and you just literally roll that vaner around like we did with the carving gouge, and then come here and clean up the inside on this profile block. So that's honing in a nutshell. So I broke the tip. I chipped out a section working on that curly maple with this carving gouge, and you can see that it's got right now this is the way it's delivered from Swiss Made. It's got a flat tip on it, and I chipped out a bunch of it, and I reground part of it already. But what I really want on this particular gouge is a fingertip profile. So I want this to be round on the edges, and that will allow me to get in some tighter spaces carving. So you can kind of see the profile that I've traced on there. It's not flat across the edge anymore. It's rounded from side to side. So you could grind this. You can't go to your honing wheel. Taking this off on a honing wheel, you'd be here for a month. So you need to go to something more aggressive. If you want to, you can go to a belt sander. You could go to a 1000 grit stone. Any number of ways you can grind this. I'm going to grind it on the same grinder that I used for sharpening the card scrapers, just because I have it. It's quick and easy and convenient for me. Now I'm not going to go ahead and do this hollow grind. So this is my bevel, right here is the bevel. And I don't like on these carving gouges, I don't like a hollow grind on that bevel. I like to keep that flat like it would come off of a stone. So what I will do on the grinder is I will not let the wheel line up with the shaft of the carving tool. Instead, I will go and orient the gouge differently on the wheel, as you'll see. Once I do the grinding and the major shaping, then I just go back to the honing step and polish up the very tip. So I'm really just oscillating when I'm maintaining carving gouges. I'm oscillating between honing just to preserve an edge, and if something gets drastically out of whack, I drop a chisel on the cement floor, I break off a tip carving, or I need to regrind the profile to satisfy a particular carving objective. Then I'll go to the grinding step followed by a honing step. Now, truth be told, I probably spend greater than 90% of the time just honing. So I'll hone time after time after time after time. I rarely go back and redo grinding. But I'll show it to you just for thoroughness, but realize that most of your time is going to be spent honing. So here I am at the wheel again, and I'm going to regrind the surface. Now for this task, I'm going to leave the rest normal to the wheel, just like we did for the card scrapers. But I have the rest fairly tight to the wheel. There's probably only maybe a 1/16 of an inch separation between the rest and the wheel. Now it might be, I'll zoom out just a little bit. You might think that, okay, it would be obvious to just put the tool in like this and rotate it around on the wheel. But that will give me a hollow grind on the inside, which I really don't want for carving tools. So I'm going to grind this like this. I'm going to grind it so that my tool is sitting on the rest, and I'm just rotating it around like this. And that way I get to take advantage of the flat spot on the wheel setting my bevel, so I won't have any hollow grind. There we go. So one thing to keep in mind when you're going through the grinding step is that you can generate an awful lot of heat, which is why I don't use a fine wheel. I actually want to remove this material as quickly as possible and not get a super hot tip, because that will ruin the temper in the metal itself. So if you get any bluing or blackening of the metal as a result of this grinding, it's gotten too hot, and you're going to have to get rid of that in order to get to good metal again. Once you ruin the temper, you just won't be able to hold an edge very long. So I usually have a bucket of water that I can dip the gouge into, keep the temperature cool the entire time, and I'll spend very little time on any one spot when I'm grinding. Pay especially concern or detail to the very, very corners. This corner here and this corner here. If you sit on those very long at all, you'll blue them almost instantly. And that's where I'm going to spend most of the time, because remember, I wanted to take off these two tips. So we'll start. I'm actually going to start like this, and I'm going to grind the profile I want, and I'll show you the gouge after that step. Then I'm going to come back and remove the flat spots from this and go on to the next step. So now you can see this a little bit. I haven't put on a huge sweep, but that it's not flat on the tip anymore. It's now got a dome to it, so there's a high spot in the middle, and then it rolls off on the left and right sides. So you can see it better this way. I don't think so, but that's probably as good as we're going to do. Now, if I look at the end of it, this won't cut at all, because this is, there's no sharp point anymore. This is flat across the tip. So I could maybe stamp a U in a piece of wood, but that's about it. So the next step now is to basically redefine that cutting edge so that I have something to hone. And here's where I'm going to now run the chisel this way across the wheel. So zoom out just a little bit, and you can watch this. I'll keep this gouge wet almost all the time.